Hello and welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, my name is Kristen, aka Not Just Another Fat Girl, and today I am giving you episode number 2 of a newish series that I have started on my channel titled Is It Normal? Because we all have questions that we want answered. We want to know that we are not alone when it comes to certain things, primarily when it comes to our bodies, but also other things. And I seek to provide you with the answer of yes, it is normal, or no, it is not normal, to that whole array of questions that go on in your head that you rarely ever say out loud. And the point of this series is to make you feel more comfortable, hopefully, inevitably with time, when it comes to speaking about those things and talking about them with the right people, aka, depending on the topic, your doctor, your family, or this community here. So without further ado, let's go ahead and dive in, because today it's a good one, okay? I've got my handy dandy laptop right here with all of my type A personality notes with everything broken down chronologically with my outline, the whole nine. If you don't know this about me yet, I am a research girly. I love diving in and having something to really study and get to the root of. And while I don't want to bog you down with the scientific information, I do want you to know that yes, I do seek the scientific facts about the topics that we discuss here. So today we are going to be discussing lopsided boobies. You heard me right. We are going to be talking about breasts, lopsided or asymmetrical breasts in particular. That is something that I feel like a lot of women in particular have a question on. However, it is not gender specific. So let's dive in. I'm going to rewind a little bit and let's talk about the biggest thing when it comes to breasts, which is that everybody has them. It's number one. But the second thing is the most important thing. There is a difference between male and female breasts. And those differences will really drive some of the differences that you will see in the shapes of the breast. So let's go to my notes here. So females, we are driven by two things, and that is estrogen and progesterone. Those two things play a major role in breast development during puberty and pregnancy, and of course, good old lady flow. I know, right? And males produce a very small amount of estrogen. However, if you do see men who have larger breasts, typically they have more estrogen than the average male. Fun fact there. Basically, higher testosterone is going to suppress the estrogen, and that's what keeps men's breasts, more muscly, we'll say. Now, when it comes to glandular items, so females have fully developed lobules, ducts, and alveoli. And those are all necessary whenever it comes to breastfeeding, which is something that I am very familiar with right now. Males, on the other hand, they have some ductal tissue, but not a whole lot, okay? So they do not have lobules, they do not have alveoli, so they are way different whenever it comes to that stuff. Basically, if you go to the scientific side of things here, male breasts are generally vestigial, which means they're underdeveloped and non-functional. Now, fat distribution, that is another thing that plays a major role in breasts and breast tissue. Obviously, as women, our breasts consist of more fat or adipose tissue, whereas men store a lot less fat in that region. However, and this is one of the primary drivers here, when you have more estrogen for men, then that automatically has them essentially storing more fats in that region. Now, Now that we have discussed the differences and the basic foundational facts of those differences between men and women, let's get into the root of this particular episode, which is asymmetry. Fun fact here, over 85 to 90% of women have naturally asymmetrical breasts, meaning that one is a different size or shape or even position than the other, okay? There are definitely women who have, one nipple going here and one nipple way down here. It happens, ladies, okay? And it is way more common than you may think. And I know a lot of people, they go into we'll call them the brassiere stores, and they do have special inserts that are primarily used by women who have had breast cancer and they have had mastectomies or partial mastectomies, and they need, one side needs that extra padding. However, it's actually not uncommon for women who have extreme asymmetrical breasts to also require those same inserts. And I'm going to tell you right now, I'm one of those 85 to 90%. I have asymmetrical breasts, okay? My left side, this girl right here has always been a little bit bigger than my right side. And therefore, because she is bigger, she is heavier, and therefore she sits a little bit lower than my right side. So if you want a prime example of somebody who has asymmetrical breasts, hello, welcome to my community, okay? Now, breast tissue in and of itself is very, very complex, especially when you look at female breast tissue. And you can start out with perfectly symmetrical breasts, but then over time with hormonal fluctuations, because remember, your breast tissue is driven by hormonal changes, and hormones themselves determine the shape and the makeup of your breasts. So with hormonal changes, as you hit puberty, as you become an adult, as you enter into pregnancy and postpartum life, and then breastfeeding, and then perimenopause, and then menopause, and just all of these different things, they are going to change. Absolutely. I guarantee you the breasts that you start out with at puberty are not going to be the breasts that you have once you hit adulthood, and they are definitely not going to be the breasts that you have once you are past having babies and making babies, and those aren't even going to be the breasts that you have once you are geriatric age, okay? Gravity takes its toll, if nothing else. I know, right? She has a lot to say on this topic. Now, I want you to keep in mind that the asymmetry can basically be born or originate at any point in time on your timeline. And I don't want you to think that there's automatically or inherently something wrong with you if it happens, because guess what? It is perfectly normal for it to happen. In fact, we expect it to happen, particularly if you are a woman. Now, even males have their own breast cycle, and while it is not as dramatic as a woman's cycle, it absolutely is still a prominent cycle. So you got to think, when you look at a baby, every single baby essentially has the same breast shape, softness, tissue, etc. And then as we get older, particularly at the time of puberty, that's when we start to really veer left and right as men and women. Men go through their own hormonal changes and cyclical cycles whenever it comes to their breast development, and particularly their muscle development. So men, their breasts are primarily going to be muscle and then some adipose. However, they do still have some minor little ductwork, because you got to think they do still have a nipple. However, they don't have a very big areola the way that women tend to, because of course their breasts aren't made to breastfeed and to produce milk and so forth. So they will actually have some softness around puberty typically, as all of these hormones kind of rise and fall. And then that's when their muscles really start to be able to develop. If you notice say a high school male versus a middle school male, a high school male has way more potential to put on muscle and to be muscular. And that's because his testosterone has really kicked in and it is driving the changes within his body. Testosterone literally is linked to muscle development. Yeah, another fun fact there. And for men, you also have to think that their muscles can sit differently. So it's not just simply that their adipose can be distributed differently on their chest. It is also that their nipple placement can be in two different positions, two different shapes. It is also that their muscles can sit differently. For my partner in particular, one muscle sits higher than the other when it comes to his chest. And my previous partners, all of them have had some sort of asymmetry whenever it comes to their chest region. But I will openly say that it is not as obvious with them as it is for, say, a female like me. If I take off my clothes, you are instantly going to see, okay, this one's a little bit bigger and, hangs a little bit further down, especially after breastfeeding. And if you look at them, I'm going to be honest with you, unless you're truly, truly studying it, you would rarely be able to tell. And that is just, unfortunately, just the burden that us females bear whenever it comes to that particular part of our bodies. I do want to reassure you, though, if you do have asymmetry, completely normal and expected. And while, yes, some women do have these perfectly perky breasts that never ever change, I also will challenge you in saying to look at their lifestyle, look at their hormones. Is this a woman who is more like a bodybuilder? Maybe she is, more testosterone driven than the average woman. I also would say to look at the size of her chest because, again, gravity plays a huge role when it comes to the shape, the droop, the drop of our breasts as women. So it is not uncommon for somebody who has much smaller breasts to not have such a drop and to not have asymmetry or very much asymmetry. And then the same if they are a very muscular female, they work out a lot, it's going to be way less adipose there and way more muscle. And let's be real, people, muscle tends to be firm. It'll flex, but it's pretty firm. But adipose, honey, that thing can jiggle and wiggle, okay? And when you're jiggling and wiggling and pulling your skin all over the place, inevitably it will get stretched out. So that's what tends to happen. It is not uncommon for women to have stretch marks on their breasts. And guess what? If you have asymmetry, it's not uncommon for the larger of your breasts or the one that hangs lower to have more stretch marks or even to have stretch marks while your other one doesn't. Very, very common. So if you are like me and you have asymmetrical breasts, welcome to the club, honey. Yes, it is completely normal. Can you do anything about it? To be honest with you, no. There isn't much that you can do about it unless you go the surgical route, as in a breast reduction, breast augmentation, breast lift, something along those lines. A plastic surgeon typically is going to be very well skilled and versed in making sure that you come out with symmetrical breasts. I will say if you are a woman who has extreme hormonal imbalances, then sometimes hormone replacement can help a little bit with it. But let's be honest with each other here, okay? If you are somebody who maybe has weighed, I'm just gonna throw out a number here, if you weighed 400 pounds and then you were to lose 100 pounds, you're gonna have loose skin. Hormonal imbalances. If you have far more estrogen in your body than you were meant to have, typically you are going to end up with more up here than maybe you were meant to have. And as you go on maybe a testosterone pill or you work on increasing your progesterone to balance everything out, then your breasts, while they may get a little bit smaller as far as the amount of fat and tissue within them, honestly, they are still never going to be the same, because again, having your skin shrink with your body is very, very difficult. You have to have the, perfect diet, the really good, I will say really good genes, really good diet, great hydration, and a great balance of all of the vitamins and minerals that your body needs in order to really feed and fuel your skin cells to contract and retract as needed when you are losing weight. Also, if you are somebody, I do want to mention this because, hello, I am somebody who has lipedema. So if you are unfamiliar with lipedema, lipedema is literally a fat disease. It means that your adipose, your fat cells, are not like normal cells. Okay, they are basically, if you were to look at them under a microscope, if you were to have them sucked out, they look like hard nodules. It's basically a bunch of hard nodules that are fat cells. So when you would pinch your skin, then you would see like these little ball areas. So it looks like I don't know if you guys ever played with them as a kid, but they had this foam stuff. They sold it with the slime and everything else, but it was like this foam that you could like squish and play with, but it was like a bunch of little tiny styrofoam balls with some sort of like colorful, we'll say glue type of thing in there. And it looks like that, okay? It is very, very just, it looks like a beanbag essentially. And it's not fat or tissue that breaks up easily. It literally forms and creates little clusters of hard balls. So it is very, very difficult as well to lose those hard fat balls in your body. It's why it gives your legs that cottage cheese effect. It's why if you were to squeeze under your arms, you would get like these little lumps, essentially like a cluster of little lumps there that almost makes it look like you have hives underneath your skin. And it's quite painful. But it is extremely difficult to lose, to reduce, to shrink that type of fat. And while lipedema does typically primarily affect your legs, your hips, your booty, and your arms, it also can be distributed throughout other parts of your body. It can be in your midsection. There's actually a large subset of people with lipedema who have it specifically in their midsection, but also it can impact your breast tissue, your calves, your forearms. It literally, anywhere that can have fat on your body can be infected by the hard noduled fat cells of lipedema. So keep that in mind if you are somebody who has that, or if you have something else such as PCOS that is very much a hormonal issue, then asymmetry and the correction of asymmetry is going to be way more challenging without surgical intervention. So just keep that in mind. If you are somebody who has asymmetrical breasts though, please know and understand whether you are male or female, it is 100% normal, okay? There's nothing to be ashamed of, and I said it on many of my videos before, and I'm gonna say it again. If you are with somebody who wants to make a comment or say something about an imperfection on your body, you don't need to be friends with them, and you do not need to be with them romantically in any way, shape, or form. Somebody gaining access to your body in any capacity is a privilege, not a right, okay? If they have something negative to say, honey bunch, they don't deserve it, okay? They do not deserve that privilege. So don't give it to them, okay? Thank you so much for being here today, guys. I really hope that you're enjoying this series so far and that it hits the right audience and it reassures you in some way, shape, or form. If there is anything else that you want me to cover, don't be afraid to drop it in the comments down below. Let me know what you want to know is normal or not. I definitely want to continue this series for a good long while and to expand upon everything and anything under the sun that we question whether or not it is normal. You know, something as little as, you know, waking up in the middle of the night at 3 a.m. every single night to, you know, more body things and just everything under the sun. So nothing is off limits. That is one thing about my channel, is that I do not shy away from the topics that other people do. I am not afraid to talk about it, because there are a lot of things that truthfully would be way better if we did talk about it. So let's go ahead and pull back the veil and start talking about these things. If you like this content, if you enjoy hearing me, then definitely go ahead and hit that subscribe button down below. And I truly appreciate each and every one of you, whether you subscribe or not, just by being here, just by watching a video, and just by supporting me in the tiniest of ways. I truly, truly appreciate it all. And I know. Until next time.